Hey guys, welcome to That Florida Feeling. Hope everybody's having a good week. It may not be hurricane season anymore, but that is not going to stop whatever is coming to us this weekend. Be careful. It could get really bad. I know that they're projecting like tropical storm winds on my side of Florida and a lot of rain. So yeah, just be careful. I don't think that they're saying it's going to get like bad, but of course it's Florida. Florida always floods, so just kind of keep an eye out, guys. I hope everybody's getting ready for Christmas. I'm not going to lie, December doesn't feel like December this year. It just doesn't. I don't know if it's because it's still 80 outside. Maybe not. I don't know. It just doesn't. I did learn that a lot of us open our Christmas presents on Christmas Day, which I kind of thought, but I think there's some really cool traditions out there, and some people do on Christmas Eve, and I think it's cool that each family has their own tradition. Thank you for sharing that. Thanks also to everybody who has looked at the I'm just going to combine them all together. They're Facegram, YouTube now. All right. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok pages. You guys are awesome as always. Thanks for my new subscriber on YouTube. Still a slow work in progress, I promise. We're getting there. But as always, guys, thank you. I really appreciate it. So today we're going to talk about something that Florida has to offer. And I mean, it does have quite a bit to offer. I mean, it's got beaches, theme parks, huge cities, small towns, some really cool places to visit, and some really cool pieces of history that usually get overlooked. I'm actually talking about pieces of history that people obviously left here, loved deeply, and left behind. And I'm talking about their homes. So Florida was home to a huge land boom in the 1920s. Henry Flagler was kind of one of the principal people to kind of start bringing people to Florida and realizing that it's a nice place to be in the winter. So thank you for capitalizing on the snowbirds. I'm not sure that I like you for that. But he brought a lot of his well-to-do and famous friends, and they came to Florida to make their second homes in the winter. And a lot of them built really nice, massive homes in South Florida. Well, a lot of them ended up in South Florida eventually. Edison built his house and Flagler built his, and, they're all in different parts of South Florida. A lot of them do tend to kind of crop towards the Miami area, but they built these homes as a welcoming place for themselves, their families, and their friends. And they built them to last, and a lot of them actually have lasted, even through all the hurricanes, even through all these years. And you can actually still tour them today and see how the wealthy lived over 100 years ago. So the place I'm going to talk about today is the Villa Vizcaya. And it's the Villa Vizcaya Museum and Gardens in Miami. The villa was originally owned by James Deering, who purchased the estate on Biscayne Bay in the Coconut Grove area of Miami, which Coconut Grove is like one of the really older, we'll call it a suburb of Miami, one of the nicer neighborhoods. Really one of the first areas for snowbirds. The estate's name refers to the northern Spanish province, Biscay, in the Basque region near the Bay of Biscay. And since the estate sits on the Biscayne Bay, it was a fitting name. Deering also chose this name to commemorate the early Spaniard Vizcay, who was said to have explored the area. But it was actually Sebastian Vizcaino who explored the area. But whatever. Don't let facts get in the way of a good story. So Deering used the caravel, which was a type of ship used during the age of exploration, and used it as a symbol of the Vizcaya. The estate was originally consisted of 180 acres of shoreline with mangrove swamps and native tropical forest. Deering was a massive conservationist, and he wanted to conserve the mangroves and the forest on the estate's grounds. Now, the estate was huge. It was to include a villa, formal gardens, recreational area. He wanted a lagoon, a kitchen, a garden, a kitchen garden as well, which is a whole other thing, and village that would service the compound and run the estate. The construction began in 1912, and it was officially occupied on Christmas Day in 1916. And he arrived via his yacht, because why wouldn't he? The villa was still being worked on as late as 1922, and it set somewhere around the cost of $15 million back then. Can't imagine what it would be today. The Italian Renaissance gardens and village on the estate weren't actually finished until 1923. And Deering used the Vizcaya as his winter residence from 1916 until he died in 1925. The Vizcaya is stunning as it adopts a historical European tradition and brings it to South Florida. The villa combined imported French and Italian garden layouts with Cuban limestone for the grounds, and the villa also incorporates native plants with non-native to represent the gardens of the Tuscan region of Italy, as well as native plants from Florida to represent the tropical vibe. Deering actually used the villa to show off a collection of art items, antiques, and used different architectural elements in the house. Now, Deering also used many different interpretations for inside and outside of the house. Paul Chafin was a former artistic, inspirational, and interior design. He became the director of the villa's head designer with Deering. Deering also used Diego Suarez, a Colombian landscaper, to design the landscape of the estate grounds. Now, the villa had Gilded Age technology, which meant that they had old doorbells, a dumbwaiter, and a rotary dial phone, which was the first telephone system in the Miami-Dade County at that time. And of course, Deering spared no expense on the villa. It had to be perfect. It had to be massive. It had to be ornate. It had to be comfortable. And he used it, of course, yearly. And he wanted to have all of his normal comforts when he would go there. Unfortunately, Deering passed away in 1925, and the villa was inherited by his two nieces. The villa sat unused and went through numerous storms and hurricanes, and as it did so, it saw rising maintenance costs and varying expenses to keep up the house. So as they did, they began to sell off pieces of the land of the villas around it from the 180 acres. They needed to do so to keep up just with the expenses and to be able to afford it. Now, the majority of the estate was sold in 1945 to the Catholic Diocese of St. Augustine in Florida to build Miami's Mercy Hospital. The original 50 acres with the villas, the gardens, and the village were the final part of what the family had left after that purchase. In 1952, the Miami-Dade County acquired the villa and its former gardens, but they were so bad. They were in such a bad state of disrepair because at this point you had numerous hurricanes hit South Florida or come around South Florida, and of course with the rising cost and nobody really living there, and you know, it's amazing to realize how quickly a house can just go downhill. Especially even like a new build today, like you buy a house today, it's new, and things just break instantly. It's amazing. It's kind of annoying, but it's amazing. So it's no surprise that this house was in a massive state of disrepair when they took it over in 1952. They purchased the estate and gardens for only $1 million, which seems like a very small sum compared to what it might have actually been worth when it was first or finally finished. Deering's heirs donated the furnishings and antiques to the county museum. Vizcaya officially opened as the Dade County Art Museum a year later in 1953. The villa was officially designated as a National Historic Landmark in 1994 and has continued to be a museum to this day. That's right, you can actually still visit it, and it is gorgeous. The Vizcaya is not set quietly, though. Of course, when running a museum full of antiques, things are known to happen. The home was actually broken into in 1977. Thieves came all the way from New York and stole $1.5 million in artwork and silver, which were massive in historical value. The thieves were arrested, and most of the items were recovered in New York. They recovered a silver bowl that had actually belonged to Napoleon Bonaparte. They also recovered a couple other massive historical items, but the thieves had already sold some of the items, so they didn't recover all of them, which sucks because I'm sure that they sold some and they're still floating around on the black market that were in the villa, and I'm sure that they have massive historical value, which are now lost to time, which sucks because I'm sure some of those items people would have loved to have seen and been able to still view to this day. But they did get the thieves. They did recover some of their items. They went back on display in the museum, and you better believe the museum probably upped their security system tenfold. The museum and gardens, you, of course, can still visit today. They are 50 acres. They have the villa, the gardens, and the forest that you can still visit. 10 acres of the Italian Renaissance formal gardens, and 40 acres are native hammock on the 50 acres. The landscaping still shows the decor and history that Deering wanted for his villa, so they have maintained the upkeep, and the original plan. You can explore the grounds and the villas. The villa actually contains more than 70 rooms with antiques ranging from the 15th to the 19th century. So it's a wide range. It is beautiful. It is historical. It is gorgeous. And you can see decorative European art and furnishings throughout the villa. So if you're if you're a history lover, if you're an art lover, this is definitely a place you want to check out in Southern Florida. It's one of those, I'm in Miami and it's hot. What do? Go check out this villa. It's gorgeous. Vizcaya was built with an open-air courtyard with gardens on Biscayne Bay. So, of course, the estate has weathered numerous hurricanes and, unfortunately, environmental changes. The worst hurricanes were in 1926, 1992, and 2005. Miami-Dade County has set aside money for continued preservation and restoration of the estate. And since it is South Florida, I'm sure that there will be continued preservation due to the fact that hurricanes are always an option. They're always constantly restoring the villa since it is an outdoor area, the gardens, and they have plans to restore the village eventually for an exhibition and education area. So it's basically continually work in progress. The hurricane of 1926, though, devastated the Miami area. I actually talked about it in one of my hurricane podcast episodes, I believe, about a year ago. And this hurricane did hit the estate. The historic rose garden was absolutely destroyed by salt water because it flooded. And when salt, basically, like, if you throw salt on the ground, it kind of makes it just useless. It pretty much stops any future growth. And this is exactly what happened, unfortunately, to the rose garden. Now, the preservationists have been working with the Tropical Rose Society of Miami, and they were actually finally able to bring roses back to the grounds. So they have kind of started to win that battle. The Rose Garden, which is now the Fountain Garden, is not where it was when Deering was there, when he was there and what he envisioned it was, but it is coming back. It is obviously a slow process. Unfortunately, it has been about 100 years, or it will be about 100 years. But it is getting there, and it's really cool that preservationists are still working on that to get it to where it needs to be. Now, the estate does have one really cool feature, but also it is one feature that they are constantly working to restore, and that is the swimming pool. The estate is home to a swimming pool grotto and is one of two public places that has a surviving mural by Robert Winthrop Chandler. The ceiling mural was designed in 1916, and it depicts an underwater fantasy scene with creatures and marine life. Since it is a grotto and it is outdoors and the way it is built, unfortunately the pool was submerged by Hurricane Andrew in 1992 and then again in 2005. The floods, Miami culture, environmental changes really have made this kind of an ongoing project for the estate, especially since when it floods, it is flooded usually by saltwater, and that is corrosive usually. So, this has been an ongoing thing. They're trying to save not only the mural, but the architectural and the pool itself. It is a really cool thing to be able to see, though. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. The villa is listed as one of America's most endangered historic places. It was listed on this list in 2008, so it has been on there for quite some time. And the threat mainly comes from the actual growth in the area, the growth in the building in the area with the threat of high rises on the properties and the land value. Face it, it's Miami. Every piece of land in Miami is high value, and everybody wants to build on everything and put as many people there as you can. And I get it. It's Miami. But that also does threaten the villa. It's in a really nice area, obviously, and people want to be there. The villa does hold many events throughout the year. They have a costume party over Halloween with people from all around Florida attending. They also participate in the Bay Nanza, which is the Biscayne Bay Cleanup Day, which is an annual community event, which is designed to clean up the most important ecological system in South Florida, which is Biscayne Bay. They hold a photography contest in which they encourage people to capture the beauty's bay. No, I said that backwards. Capture the bay's beauty. Sorry. Coffee doesn't kick in sometimes, guys. But no, they do a lot for the community. They do a lot to continue preservation. They do a lot to make sure that they're really taking care of their area. And they really do a lot to keep the history alive. The villa, though, is actually kind of popular in culture itself. Like, it's, It's been used a lot for a lot of films. If you've ever seen Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, that's the villa. Bad Boys 2, that's the villa. Money Pit, Iron Man 3. These are just a couple in the last 30 years that have been filmed on the grounds of this estate. It's also a super popular spot for weddings and special events due to the fact that it is gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous. It is just amazing. It has great backdrops for pictures, especially on weddings and your special day. So a lot of people do book this for events. Now you can visit this amazing spot in Miami. Sorry guys, COVID got me. You can visit this amazing spot in Miami from Wednesday to Sunday from 9:30 to 4:30. They do require tickets that you can purchase online. They do host a farmer's market on Sundays, which is kind of like their most popular event for the villa. It's also one of the most fun. I definitely recommend going to that. They do have a cafe and shop on the grounds. It is next to the swimming pool grotto, so you can visit it all. But you can only visit the cafe and shop if you have a ticket to the museum. So go to the museum, then you get to go to the cafe and shop. Tickets are $25 for 13 and up, $10 for kids 6 to 12. If the kids 5 and under, it's free. They do recommend buying tickets online. The villa is an absolutely amazing look to see how the rich and elite lived during the Roaring 20s. It's also really interesting to see what their idea of comfort was, especially in South Florida, where we all know that it gets hot and humid. So yeah, just looking back on them, rich is rich, and it is Miami. So it was really interesting to look in and see how they wanted to live back 100 years ago. The historic importance and conservation of the villa is definitely worth checking out, especially if you're a art lover or a historian. The grounds and building are absolutely immaculate. It's a great stop and a busy place for Miami, especially on a hot day, just to take in some history and some scenery. And of course, Florida is such a fun place to visit, the beaches and history and tourists. And of course, you probably will also see Florida Man. Today's Florida Man comes to us from Clearwater, Florida. That's right, a popular place for Florida Man. Rudy Wilcox was charged with indecent exposure after he was seen pooping on a dead possum. That's right, he pooped on a possum. A dead one, nonetheless. He was seen near the intersection of Belcher Road and Willow Tree Oh my God, I used to live near there. Sorry. All right. He was seen at the intersection of Belcher Road and Willow Tree Trail during rush hour, nonetheless, because when you gotta go, you gotta go. He was actually seen by a police officer. A police officer saw this himself. He was seen relieving himself on the dead possum. Rudy told the officer that he had not seen what he thought he saw, but the officer pointed and the evidence was right there. Don't be Florida Man, guys. If you got to go, at least try to get some cover. Maybe not on the possum. What did the possum do to you? No. God, Clearwater. Oh, that just fits Clearwater too. All right, guys. I hope you guys have found another place to add to a fun place to visit, especially in South Florida, in Miami. Thank you for listening this week, guys. I can't believe we're past Thanksgiving. It is 10 days till Christmas. Oh, I'm not ready. I haven't even started shopping. Oh, well, it is what it is. Amazon to the rescue. All right, guys. Don't forget to like, share, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss out on an episode. Thank you, as always, for listening. You guys are always amazing. Share the memes. Check out the groups and the page on Facebook. Look up TikTok. Sometimes you're going to see amazing Florida scenery. Sometimes you're going to see me talking about how Taco Bell just brought back the double-decker taco. Yeah, that's me. I'm that person. But yeah, say hi. Just know that I love each and every one of you. You guys are all special to me. Drink your water. Wear your sunscreen. Look out for the weather this week, guys, if you're in Florida. And as always, that's your daily dose of sunshine.